Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, esteemed Nobel Prize laureates, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Nobel Foundation, it is my great honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the 2023 Nobel Prize award ceremony. In particular, I wish to welcome the Nobel Prize laureates, their families and friends. Earlier today in Oslo, Narges Mohammadi was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in her absence, and I quote, for her fight against the oppression of women in Iran and her fight to promote human rights and freedom for all, end of quote. Her absence was due to her being imprisoned together with many other prisoners of conscience in the notorious Evin prison in Tehran. In spite of these circumstances, her strong message, smuggled out of prison and read by her children, is finally one of hope. Victory is not easy, but it is certain. We look forward to receiving her family here in Stockholm in a few days. The message of Alfred Nobel, transmitted to us through his will, is equally clear. He believed in the unique powers of science, literature, and action for peace to help transform the world to the benefit of humankind. And for all of this, international collaboration and respect for knowledge are key. I'm convinced that this message is all the more important since it may seem untimely today, when the optimism of Nobel's time is being replaced by radical pessimism or even resignation, and when new interconnected crises challenge our understanding of our mission in academia, culture, and civil society. But on the contrary, I'm convinced that at this moment in history, with increasingly polarized views which tend to tear our societies apart, with democracies being undermined, and with wars and conflicts throughout the world, which continue to cause so many victims, we need more than ever to keep Nobel's vision in mind. He believed in knowledge, enlightenment, and the pursuit of truth. The development of our world is not decided by destiny. It lies in our own power to decide on our future and on how to transmit our heritage to new generations. Our new capacities as humankind, both with digitization, which makes the world come closer than ever, and with artificial intelligence, which contains endless possibilities as well as risks, need to be addressed both scientifically and culturally. Through free fundamental research, science explores and expands the frontiers of human knowledge, laying the foundations for applications and development work, and thus also providing preparedness for unexpected and unpredictable future events in our world. The scientific breakthroughs awarded this year, the Physics Prize for experiments with light, which capture the shortest of moments, the Chemistry Prize for the discovery and synthesis of quantum dots, or the groundbreaking findings behind the prize in physiology or medicine that enabled the development of effective mRNA vaccines, and for the prize in economic sciences, research uncovering key drivers of gender differences in the labor market, all serve as powerful examples of the importance of forerunners who paved the way, as well as of the manifold phases of science. Together, we see their strength. Last, but certainly not least, the prize in literature explores, through what I'm tempted to call fundamental research in literature, the boundaries of human existence by giving voice to the unsayable. The laureates being awarded tonight, each in a unique way, testify to the power of science and literature. They show us that individually and together, we have it within ourselves to change the world.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, esteemed Nobel Prize laureates, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. The world is big, so big, bigger than you ever can imagine. Those are the words of Zacharias Topelius, and they illustrate the fact that we are part of a vast universe, the universe that we are exploring. But the vast and the big is governed by the very small details. The small details that are beyond the capabilities of our 5 traditional senses of sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing. These small details have great impact on our lives and offer intriguing possibilities for expanding our knowledge. They give us the power to design materials and methods for exploration, for future sustainability, and for promoting health. This applies to both length and time scale when we talk about the small details. This year's Nobel Prize in Physics is focused on small time scales, and to be precise, the attoseconds. A heartbeat lasts for 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, and 1,000 attoseconds. That is the same number of seconds since our universe was born. The attosecond is the scale of the world of the electrons, a world that we now can explore. Back in 1925, Werner Heisenberg argued that this world cannot be seen. But thanks to attosecond light pulses, this is starting to change. The challenge was the extremely short timescale. It took several decades to overcome this barrier. Attosecond science allows us to address fundamental questions, such as the timescale of the photoelectric effect, for which Albert Einstein received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921. With attosecond pulses, we can study how the distribution of electrons oscillates within molecules and materials. The information about charge fluctuations holds secrets and solutions to how to control electronic migration. With attosecond chemistry, specific chemical bonds can be selectively broken or formed, giving us the control to tailor new materials. With attosecond physics, we can study charge transfer processes in materials, and they are the key elements in the function and optimization of solar cells, batteries, catalysts, and electronics, as a few examples. The origin of this year's prize can be traced to the late 1970s and the early 1980s, when atoms in strong laser fields were studied. Our laureates discovered that it was possible to generate attosecond light pulses by controlling the interaction between lasers and atoms. They developed methods for measuring the duration of these pulses. They also developed techniques for generating both pulse trains and individual pulses. Emeritus Professor Agostini, Professor Dr. Kraus, and Professor Anne Lollier, you have been awarded the 2023 Nobel Prize in Physics for experimental methods that generate attosecond pulses of light for the study of electron dynamics in matter. It is an honor and a privilege to convey to you the warmest congratulations of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. I now ask you to step forward to receive the Nobel Prize from the hands of His Majesty the King.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, esteemed Nobel Prize laureates, ladies and gentlemen. Materials can have strikingly different properties. For example, materials can be hard, soft, or brittle. They can be transparent, reflective, or colored. They can conduct electricity and heat, or they can be good insulators. They can be magnetic or non-magnetic, or melt at high or at low temperatures. When humans have discovered new materials, they have often fundamentally changed our society. Early examples are bronze, iron, and steel. The currently ongoing digital transformation and electrification are enabled by semiconductors and battery materials. Traditionally, to create a new material, we choose new chemical and structural compositions. That means we order atoms in new constellations. However, early in the 20th century, very soon after the development of quantum theory, a striking prediction was made. According to quantum mechanics, the properties of a material could be completely changed if it was made so small that it was only a few atoms across. In other words, it should be possible to modify a material's properties just by adjusting its size without changing its composition. For example, if particles were made small enough to squeeze together the electron's quantum wave, the electron should be able to store more energy, and which they could then release to a bright photon, so that larger particles would emit red light and smaller particles blue light. Let me illustrate this. If you think of my fingernails as materials, you can see they have different sizes, but they look all the same. If they were at the nanoscale, then a large fingernail might look red, A smaller one might look blue and with all colors in between. For several decades, this remained a purely theoretical prediction. It seemed almost impossible to make particles consisting of a specific number of atoms with the required perfect crystallinity and pristine surfaces. Alexei Yakimov solved this challenge using glass-making methods. During the cooling process of molten glass, he managed to create copper chloride crystals whose color varied with size, precisely as predicted by quantum mechanics. He had discovered that it was possible to make quantum dots. Louis Bruce paved the way to producing quantum dots that were free in solution using standard chemical methods. His discovery triggered a wave of interest in learning how to make these new nanostructures, these new nanomaterials, and in using them for exciting applications. At first, however, it was difficult to produce quantum dots of sufficiently high quality and in large enough quantities. Munji Bawendi developed an ingenious chemical method that produced very high quality quantum dots that could be modified to create more complex structures and was scalable to industrial production levels. The discoveries of this year's laureates have made decisive contributions to the interdisciplinary field of nanoscience. Nanotechnology is about making structures 1,000 times smaller than a strand of hair and using them for better, safer, and more powerful devices and technologies. Quantum dots, specifically, are used to explore the inner life of biological cells, to improve screens and the quality of energy-saving LED lighting, and to mark tumor tissue during surgery. There's also intensive research into using quantum dots for improved solar cells in flexible electronics or in future quantum communication. Munji Bawendi, Louis Bruce, and Alexei Yakimov, your discovery of quantum dots and how to make them has opened up a new way of designing materials and helped catalyze the field of nanoscience. This is a truly great achievement for the benefit of humankind. On behalf of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, I wish to convey you our warmest congratulations. May I now ask you to step forward and receive your Nobel Prizes from the hands of His Majesty the King.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, esteemed Nobel Prize laureates, ladies and gentlemen. DNA is the genetic blueprint that defines what we are: a fish, a honeybee, a lemon tree, or a human. RNA is less well known, but equally important. Messenger RNA, or mRNA, carries genetic information and acts as a template for protein production. Thousands of different mRNA molecules are present in each of our cells at any given time, instructing the cells how to develop and what functions to execute. Conversion of DNA to mRNA to protein is an evolutionary conserved process that is common to all forms of life. Messenger RNA was first defined by Jacob and Monod in 1961, a discovery that was awarded with the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1965. Although the identity and function of mRNA has been known for over 60 years, and mRNA is routinely used in most modern medical research laboratories, the term has remained largely obscure outside the scientific community, until recently. This year's Nobel Prize laureates in Physiology or Medicine, Professor Katalin Karikó and Professor Drew Weissman, have ensured that the term mRNA is now broadly recognized. Most of us present here today have received one or several mRNA vaccine doses in our arm, a process that directs some of our cells to produce the encoded protein for a short while. If the mRNA encodes a foreign virus protein, such as in the case of the COVID vaccines, this will alert our immune system to stimulate a response against the virus, protecting us against disease should we later become infected. RNA molecules are elegantly simple in their composition, with just 4 building blocks, nucleotides, linked together in different order to encode any protein of interest. Katalin Karikó, an expert mRNA biochemist, and Drew Weissman, a skilled immunologist, shared a vision of using mRNA as a generic carrier of information for clinical applications. But early results showed limited success. Karikó and Weissman realized that to achieve their goal, they needed to understand how our cells respond to different forms of RNA at the molecular level. In a breakthrough discovery published in 2005, they demonstrated that mRNA produced with standard nucleotides evoked an undesired inflammatory response in our cells. They found that this reaction was circumvented when one of the 4 nucleotides was chemically modified to mimic our own mRNA. This finding provided a solution to a major problem previously facing all mRNA-based clinical applications, propelling the mRNA technology into a whole new era. The discovery by this year's Nobel Prize laureates in Physiology or Medicine surprisingly enabled the development of effective vaccines that helped control a devastating pandemic and save millions of lives 15 years later. In 2020, the scientific community, together with governments, the private sector, and regulatory authorities, demonstrated that it's possible to greatly reduce the time needed for vaccine development in situations where this is urgently needed. Science communication is challenging. A silver lining of the pandemic was the opportunity to increase public's awareness and knowledge about infectious threats and how our immune system functions. Terms like mRNA, virus variants, antibodies, T cells and B cells are now common to most people understand these terms. And surveys demonstrate that the public's trust in scientific research increased during the pandemic. The basic research performed by the 2023 laureates in Physiology or Medicine no doubt contributed to this. This year's prize is very much in the spirit of Alfred Nobel, a groundbreaking contribution to the greatest benefit of humankind. Dear Professors Carrico and Weissman, on behalf of the Nobel Assembly at Karolinska Institutet, it's my great joy and privilege to convey to you our warmest congratulations. I invite you now to step forward to receive the Nobel Prize from the hands of His Majesty the King.
Ich weiß es selber nicht, warum Angelei von Liebe spricht. Keine Wunderweilen ist, in meinen Augen schaut und meine Hände küsst. Ich weiß es selber nicht, warum man von den Zauber spricht. Denn keiner widersteht, wenn mich sieht, weil
Eders Majestäter, ärade pristagare, mina damer och herrar. Att träda in i Jon Fosses värld är att komma till en trakt av största oro och beslutsvånda. Hans rika författarskap kretsar kring den enskilda människans vilsenhet och svårigheter att finna en väg i livet. Vare sig han skriver prosa, dramatik eller lyrik närmar han sig ett osäkert tillstånd som kan öppna en förbindelse med det gudomliga. Här räcker inte de gängse orden till. Men det sällsamma med Fosse är att han lyckas, som prismotiveringen lyder, att ge röst åt det osägbara. Redan tidigt fångar Fosse det osägbara i det lilla prosastycket "Jag kunde inte säga det till dig". Vi möter en gammal man som inte kan bli kvitt det glimrande minnet av något han inte förmått säga till sin älskade genom alla år. Han kan inte glömma hennes blick där hon sitter ensam vid ett bord i skolmatsalen. Och minnet har obevekligt bitit sig fast i honom. Inte ens på hennes dödsbädd är det möjligt. Ord och liv har glidit isär. Men när Fosse ger den gamle röst åt det omöjliga förvandlas det till en berörande elegi och triumf över språklösheten. I det sena storverket Septologin som fullbordades 2021 är huvudpersonen Asle en åldrad målare som med bön vänder sig till en gud bortom alla begrepp och föreställningar i den kristne medeltidsmystiken Mäster Eckharts anda. Men både i det tidiga prosastycket som jag nämnde och i den sena romanen är huvudpersonen uppfylld av en oro som skapar en spänning mellan det vardagliga och det gudomliga. Det är denna oro som ger hela författarskapet en inre dramatik. Jon Fosse är ingen svår författare. Han använder de enklaste ord och skriver om erfarenheter som vi alla har en relation till. Separation, död och sårbar kärlek. Det svåra hos Fosse rör snarare vår beredskap att öppna oss för den existentiella osäkerhet som han ständigt rör vid. Men att han är en av samtidens mest spelade dramatiker vittnar om att också denna vånda kan delas av många. Det speciella med Fosses enkelhet är att den får djup och intensitet genom att upprepas och varieras. I Fosses tidiga gastkramande roman Stängd gitarr, där en mor låser sig ute och därmed skiljs från sin lilla dotter, är det paniken som blivit ett med språkformen. I den skimrande berättelsen Morgon och kväll övergår oron i förundran och djup förtröstan, där den gamle Johannes en morgon håller på att dö och hans verklighetssinne börjar svikta. I septologin blir den böljande prosan utan punkt 1 med målaren Asles irrande tankar och suger in läsaren med hypnotisk kraft. Antingen kretsar Fosse runt det osägbara som är de här verken, eller så väljer han tystnadens språk som är sin radikala förnyelse av världsdramatiken under 1990-talet. Med början i det internationella genombrottet Någon kommer att komma upptäcker han möjligheten att låta språklösheten ta kropp på scenen. På teatern måste allt inre komma ut, och det som inte kan sägas måste också få en röst. Och det sker i en lång rad emotionellt laddade pjäser som Namnet, Dröm om hösten eller Dödsvariationer. Där vidgas också tiden där de döda tar plats i scenrummet. Jon Fosse är den första Nobelpristagaren i litteratur som skriver på nynorska. Och precis som sin stora norske föregångare Terje Vesaas förenar han en stark lokal anknytning med en tro på samtidslitteraturens möjligheter. Han skyr den slutgiltiga formuleringen, vilket gör det nästan omöjligt att citera honom. Han är på så sätt ambivalensens och det oavgjordas mästare. I hans värld vibrerar osäkerheten av ett hemligt ljus. Käre Jon Fosse, tillåt mig att framföra den svenska akademins varma gratulationer och be stiga fram och motta Nobelpriset i litteratur ur Hans Majestät Konungens hand.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, esteemed Nobel Prize laureates, ladies and gentlemen, it is about time. This year's prize in economic sciences is essentially about time. Time should have the potential to be a great equalizer. Everybody gets the same daily allowance and get to choose how to spend it. But although the length of the day is equally distributed, its span is often not enough for the pursuit of life's many goals. Because raising children takes time. Engaging in a long educational program takes time. Investing in a career, climbing the promotional ladder, takes time. Claudia Goldin explains that women had to make choices about time under different constraints than men. These choices had economic underpinnings and were appropriate given the circumstances of the time and the ability of women to peer accurately into the future. The result, however, has been unequal outcomes in how much time women spend working in the labor force, in how much they earn when they work. It is about time, because living conditions change over time. Goldin shows how a host of technological advances in the home, refrigerators, vacuum cleaners, and washing machines freed up women's time during the past century. She explains how the emergence of birth controls in the 1960s improved women's ability to plan career and family. As a result, the rate of women entering the labor market tripled in many countries, undeniably one of the largest economic and social changes of modern times. But can we expect that the mere passage of time will do the trick? Claudia Goldin tells us that historically this has not been the case. She digs deeply into the archives and reveals the various types of work carried out by female professionals who were not listed with occupations in historical censuses. But they were butchers, bakers, seamstresses, shoemakers, pewterers, coopers, pewters, tinplate workers, glass engravers, and ironmongers, just to mention a few. Despite being absent from official records, these women carried out their work. With industrialization, these professions became rarer among women, and during 200 years of American history, female labor market participation decreased before it increased. Time served as a divider before it became an equalizer. It is about time, because change takes time. Goldin's work teaches us that history progresses slowly as each generation achieves its own form of success, then passes the baton to the next. On a wintry day in Chicago in 1971, a baton was surely passed. A young woman dressed in high boots and a fashionably short coat that barely covered her miniskirt observed a gray-haired woman, a retired professor, walk into the computer center carrying a large box of punch cards. The two women were separated by more than their age and by more than their fashion sense, but they occupied the same moment in time. What the young woman learned from the older one was that women could have the same commitment to research as male professors. She saw a vision of the possible and felt the desire to achieve what was lacking. In her book, Career and Family, Goldin recalls this moment as an apparition, a reminder of the past and a vision of the future at the same time. Today, a wintry day in Stockholm will forever be another historical moment. Professor Claudia Goldin, it is about time that the world learns the long work history of half its population. Your research has radically changed what we know about women in the labor market and how we understand what we know. Today, we celebrate your path-breaking academic achievements. They are more than a baton to be passed. They are giant shoulders from which coming generations will be able to see very far. It is an honor and a privilege to convey to you, on behalf of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, our warmest congratulations. May I now please ask you to step forward and receive your prize from Her Majesty the King.